Welcome to the SNET webinar. I am Frederick Weiss.
George Gizdaka.
And I'm Kurla COVID.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to be talking about the firewall evolution, transitioning to managed security solutions. So first off, if you don't mind me asking, what is the kind of evolution here? Why isn't it evolution? Why isn't it just, the next generation firewall? Where's the evolution part come in for our customers?
Yeah, of course. Well, as we'll talk about, the cybersecurity landscape is constantly evolving. The potential bad actors out there on the internet are obviously also constantly evolving. So there's a need to deploy a robust piece of technology that can address those concerns, as well as a team of experts that can manage and monitor and maintain that device. And we'll talk
Excellent.
about all the reasons why that's important.
All right, perfect. Thank you. All right, so we're going to address today's business challenges. The first one being evolving cybersecurity landscape. So the cybersecurity landscape, of course, is evolving. We hear all these things about companies like AT&T having these crazy issues. There was that Microsoft thing a few months ago. What kind of issues and how is the landscape evolving, and how what does a business owner take from that? How is this relevant to them? Like, if it's evolving, what does that mean to them?
Right. Well, as I'm sure everyone's seen in the past couple of years, more and more applications, more and more of your data that you're accessing is being moved to the cloud. And it's, evolving technically, right? The solutions are becoming more complex to, make the end user experience better. And because of that, the threat actors are also, becoming more and more complex as well. And so there's always a need to, obviously different applications are being moved around, and you need to constantly evaluate whether you're accessing those applications in a safe way. So again, you need a robust firewall and a team that's competent in managing that firewall to make sure, your needs are addressed.
So needs for robust defense mechanisms. Traditional security measures are no longer sufficient to protect against these dynamic threats. Businesses require an advanced, proactive approach to safeguard their network, data, and customer privacy. So what are we talking about here as far as a robust defense mechanism? What does that actually entail in simple words?
Right. We'll cover a lot of the features, the robust features that our firewall offers later on in this presentation. But in general, right, it's, these days it's not good enough to just block traffic, from a certain IP address or block traffic destined to a certain IP address. You need to be able to block, certain exploits to applications that you're using. You need to add a bunch of different layers, to your security posture to make, your data hard to compromise. And that's what our robust firewall solution offers.
So the challenge of keeping up. Many organizations find it challenging to keep up with new threats due to the specialized knowledge and ongoing maintenance required for modern cybersecurity tools. I think that's pretty much a given. All these things constantly change. And there's a lot of things to keep up with, right? I don't think we need to go too far into that. So why don't we talk about SNET solutions? So introducing SNET's Managed Firewall as a strategic response to this challenge.
Yeah, of course. And as you mentioned, it's these tools, these complicated features that we'll be talking about, they're no good on their own. They require a team capable of implementing those tools successfully and efficiently to be used properly and to protect the network accordingly. So, our solution combines both the technological features of our firewall along with the management ability over that firewall by our team of experts who can, one, make sure it's implemented properly, and two, make sure it's monitored and maintained properly going forward as well.
All right, well, now let's talk about introducing an introduction to Managed Firewall. Stay ahead of security threats beyond set it and forget it. So why does somebody need to have a Managed Firewall? I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that go, you know what, I got it. I have something on-prem. There's nothing beyond what out there that's going to get me. So when we talk about managed, I think a lot of the times we're talking about making sure that you as a business owner could stick to what you do best and run your business and run your business successfully, and we'll take care of the security or proactive security measures in that regard. Am I right in that kind of statement or assessment?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. As we talked about, businesses are evolving constantly, right? There's new applications that you could introduce months from now that weren't in play before, and because of that, right, your firewall needs to constantly be reevaluated to make sure you're protecting yourself and your data from outside threats. It's very important not to prioritize convenience over security, and that's what the set and forget method is. It's set it, enable some basic policies, and everything's working fine. That's great. Let's leave it. We don't really need to do anything else. But in reality, right, the applications that you use, the data that you access is constantly changing. So it's important to have a team of professionals, analyzing that and making sure, your security posture is up to date and relevant.
Right, and given those business owners a peace of mind, knowing that we got it, and we'll take care of anything that comes up, and being proactive about it, making sure that nothing does come up.
Yeah.
So additional risks of unmanaged firewall, complacency risks, and operational inefficiencies. What kind of complacency risks are we talking about here? I see that, for example, that leads to significant legal and financial ramifications. What kind of failure to meet complacency requirements leads to significant legal and financial ramifications? To be more precise, what kind of legal or financial ramifications are we talking about? How serious could something like this be? Maybe you could provide an example.
Yeah, they can be very serious. I mean, as a base example, right, credit card information for one. Pretty much all businesses process credit card information, and it's very important to keep that information secure, right?
Yeah.
It's your responsibility at the end of the day. If you're taking credit card payments and processing that data, you need to make sure that data is secure all the way from point A to point B. And pretty much every compliance, requirement has you take full ownership of data from point A to point B, and protecting that data is very important. In terms of operational inefficiency, again, things are always changing, right? The application that you used a year ago might not be around, and maybe the different traffic shaping or quality of service configuration that you set up for that application might not be relevant anymore, right? Maybe you're not load balancing properly between your multiple ISPs, for example, ISP circuits. So things like that need to constantly be evaluated, checked, and acted upon as time goes on and as your business evolves.
And real quick too, just data breaches in general, have a bad look for your clients, whether they're just getting addresses and names or any other financial information. So that could also cause your clients to want to leave your business.
Yeah, there's a significant risk of brand being broken there, trust that goes along with that, along with all those legal and financial ramifications that we discussed. So yeah, that's a giant priority to make sure that gets addressed. So key features of SNet Managed Firewall. So let's talk about some of these. So granular visibility and simplified management. So deep insight into network security, customizable firewall policies. So when we talk about deep insight into network security, what kind of insight are we talking about, and how does one as a business owner use that insight to make good decisions and make proactive moves to ensure that they're covered?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll cover a lot of these methods of deep insight in the following slides,
Sure.
and we'll bring up examples of how that's relevant and important. But at the end of the day, right, as we mentioned before, you have full accountability of the data that passes through your network. You need to know where it's going, where it came from, what that data is for, what application, for example, and you have a responsibility to protect that data and your users that access that data as well. We'll cover all these features in the next couple slides. And in terms of simplified management, yeah, all all provisioning, configuration, managing, monitoring, it's all done under one portal, one single pane of glass that we actually give access to as well to our customers if they do so choose. If they don't care, or if they don't want that access, no problem. SNet staff will manage and monitor, like we talked about, your firewall 24/7. But in case you are curious about what kind of traffic is flowing through your network, the door is open for you.
Excellent. So deep packet inspection, comprehensive security, enhanced visibility into encrypted traffic, support for complacency and data protection. So when we talk about deep packet inspection, I would bet a cup of coffee by Christmas that a lot of people don't know what a packet is first. So maybe you could explain that. And then let's talk about some of these things about complacency and data protection, things like HIPAA, of course, PCI compliance, whether you run you have a healthcare business or something else, and GDPR, of course, those are really important things. But let's start off with deep packet inspection and start from a fundamental level. What exactly is a packet, in case somebody doesn't know that phrase, that term?
Yeah, of course. Well, to keep things simple, at the base level, all information that travels over the internet travels in the form of these packets. Packets are comprised of a bunch of different, pieces and parts. In general, there's a header that contains information about where the packet is headed to, where it came from, and then there's a payload portion of that packet, which houses the actual data for whatever application is requesting that packet. Deep packet inspection is the underlying feature that allows all of these further features that we'll cover in the following slides to work properly. But essentially, again, it looks past the header of the packet, past where it's going to and where it's coming from, and it looks at the actual data itself, checks that data, against its massive database of signatures, and it's able to determine basically what that packet is used for exactly, and why it's traversing your network. In addition to that, you're able to decrypt encrypted packets, inspect them, figure out what they are, what they're doing there, where they're going, and then re-encrypt them before sending them off to the end host. Which again, as we talked about compliance-wise, it ensures that all data that flows through your organization, through your firewall, is accounted for, and you know exactly what it is, where it's going, and where it came from, which is at the base of all compliance standards.
Excellent, thank you. So application visibility and control, tailored access, and protect against unwanted applications. So I imagine this comes up when people have users on their network that are using video streaming things. Maybe they're taking up a bunch of their bandwidth, and they're trying to use mission critical, operational critical bandwidth to actually just run their business. And then there's of course, things that we don't want people to download on our network as well. I'm sure there's a number of different examples that you're going to throw out there that makes sense to this.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about it just a little bit ago, right? You can see what IP address a packet is destined to, right? Let's take YouTube, for example. YouTube uses a lot of different public IPs, and it's impossible for somebody to know, look at an IP address and say, oh yeah, that packet's destined to YouTube and it's for YouTube, right? You need this application visibility functionality in place to really determine that packet quickly is important. You're able to quickly determine that packet is destined for YouTube. And then, once you have that packet identified and that application identified, like you mentioned, Frederick, there's a bunch of different things you can do, right? You can either create firewall policies to allow or to deny that certain application or traffic to that application. You can create traffic shaping policies that, send traffic destined to that application via maybe a low latency, low bandwidth circuit that you have connected, right? That gives you load balancing capability, because it's good to have primary and failover internet connection, but it's not good to have that backup internet connection sitting there in an unused state, right? You're essentially paying 90% of the time for nothing, right? In our case, you can leverage all of your internet connections for traffic and really optimize the way your network works with application visibility.
Excellent, thank you. Let's go ahead to the next slide. Identify identity awareness. So user-specific policies and granular controls. So when we talk about user-specific policies and granular controls, are we really talking about you could see the exact which users or user groups, like if I wanted to say this department in my organization or these users in my organization have these special rules to do X, Y, and Z and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like application awareness, right? You see every application, how much traffic was sent to and from that application, how many sessions were opened. You have the same visibility into your users, right? You'll have a list of all of your users, how much traffic they've used, where they sent it to, where it came from, how many sessions they opened, and you can integrate LDAP integration as well with our firewalls, where and traditionally in the past, if you wanted to create different firewall rules for different departments, you'd have to segment off VLANs, right, for each department, and then you'd have to control,
right?
Okay, Susie's computer is on this VLAN, Frederick's computer is on this other VLAN, and you'd create rules based on that. With identity awareness, you don't really need to do that anymore because we have that username stored, and we can create policies based specifically for that username or Active Directory group of usernames, for example. So it gives you a lot of flexibility into what you allow, how you send traffic, where you send it, and yeah, it's just overall it's a great insight into the network.
A lot of value there. All right, IP reputation and filtering, Internet Protocol, just in case. Guard against malicious IPs and real-time threat intelligence. So when we talk about malicious IPs, we're talking about there's a ton of them. I'm sure there's giant lists that are updated constantly, and we're talking about phishing and things of that nature, where people are sending you these hey, I'm the Prince of Hawaii, send me $1,000, and et cetera, et cetera. There's all kinds of crazy things out there.
Yeah, absolutely. As we mentioned, it takes effort to maintain and monitor these advanced firewalls properly, and one of those tasks that are included in that maintaining and monitoring is patching the firewall, right, so that the firewall has up-to-date databases of all of these different features, IP reputation being one of them. We've talked about so far application control, right, so you can control whether traffic is allowed to YouTube, is allowed to Yahoo, whatever it may be. Doesn't really cover threats though, whereas IP reputation does. So again, there's over 12 million known malicious IPs currently in the database. Those IPs are categorized into different reputation groups. For example, IPs that are known for being the source of botnets or malware sources, things like that. Denial of service sources. There's also those IPs are categorized, or they have a value associated to them with their basically malicious level, from 0 to 100, and you can create policies based on that value as well. If you don't want to go and click certain groups of IPs, you can just say, hey, anything that's over the threshold of 80% malicious, we just block altogether.
And this is a great example of going back to that set and forget firewall, where these are constantly needing updates, and if you have that set and forget, you're not including all the new malicious IPs that are being added.
Yeah, there you go. Keeping everything fresh and updated, as of course new threats are constantly germinating and arising.
Right.
So URL reputation and web content filtering. So there's a lot of different things here that we could talk about as far as those different URLs and different kinds of domains that might not be favorable. Certainly don't want people downloading things from them on my network, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very similar to IP reputation filtering, but as we talked about, the more layers you add to your security posture, the better. The harder it is for an attacker to get through to your internal systems. So URL reputation filtering, web content filtering, along with IP filtering, it makes it harder and harder for bad traffic to enter your network. And these URLs, it's not only malicious categories. There's for example, you can, instead of going through and selecting every single, let's say, streaming or video streaming application, right, in our application visibility section, one by one selecting every single application. Instead, there's a URL category for, streaming and video, for example. So you can go ahead and block all URLs that are associated with streaming and video with one firewall policy instead of sitting there and, selecting hundreds of different applications.
Intrusion detection and intrusion prevention. So real-time threat and prevention and adaptive security posturing. So what do we have here?
Yeah, this is a very neat feature. It's pretty complex, so we'll try and keep things as simple as possible. Essentially, it goes past, blocking or allowing traffic destined to a certain application or to a certain IP address. Instead, there's a database that's uploaded to the firewall that contains a massive list of known exploits to known applications, right? And the intrusion prevention and detection system works to find packets that are targeted to exploit those exploits, right? Behavioral, packet, or just behavioral information in general, right? If it sees a certain packet that's known to exploit a certain application, it'll go ahead and block that packet for you. So it's a little bit deeper of a security feature that, alongside all the features that we talked about previously, help keep your network secure.
Excellent. And I think the last one that we have here is antivirus, which I think a lot of people, they have an understanding of. They probably bought a copy of Norton at some point, right? But the extra layer of client protection and broad protocol coverage. So what don't they know here that they might just have an assumption of?
Yeah, as you mentioned, the extra layers are always good. The firewall sits, between you and the outside world, where all the bad actors are. So the more layers, the more antivirus systems that a piece of malware needs to go through before it ends up on a computer inside of your network, the better protected you are. You can't really go wrong.
Excellent. Well, let's go ahead. We got some questions time, so let's get to our questions and answers. All right, I got a few questions coming in here. If you don't mind, we're going to answer these in the order they're received. So we'll try to get to a few of them. Oh, wow, there's a lot. Okay, first question here. Let's see which one of you want to take this. How responsive is the SNET team if I have a security concern? That's a good one.
Sure.
Who wants to take that?
I can take that one. So our support is 24/7, 365. Always have somebody answering calls, answering emails, or answering chats on our website.
Awesome. All right, great. Let's get to another question here. Let's see. I have a traditional firewall that is managed in-house. Why should I change that to a managed firewall by an outside provider? That's a natural question. I think we kind of covered that, but yeah, if someone could take that.
That one, Kirill? I can take it.
Sure, go ahead.
You could free your internal resources up to do other things, like they can manage your PCs or things like that, but leave the management of your sophisticated devices to the experts.
Yeah, I guess that all goes back to, so you could focus on your business and do what you do best, and we'll make sure that we keep you safe, kind of a thing. All right, let's look at another question. I think we got time for at least one more. Let's see. What other security solutions do you provide in addition to Managed Firewall? Not about Managed Firewall, but maybe somebody wants to take that one.
Sure. I can take that one too. So our Managed Firewall can be enhanced by addition of SD-WAN solutions, SASE solutions. SD-WAN offers a bird's eye view of your security with the ability to implement real-time policies throughout the network. And SASE allows basically your remote users to be just like they are in the office. So they're protected at home or wherever they are in the world, just like the users in your physical location would be.
Excellent. We got one more question coming in here. Somebody wants to block certain websites, but still stream movies for their own use, can they customize that? So I guess the question is, can they block these websites for others, but customize it so they could still use that website? So if they're watching Netflix, they don't want their customers watching Netflix or their staff.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Corey.
Sure, I can take that one. Yeah, absolutely. As we talked about, there's a bunch of different ways to accomplish that, whether it's through VLANs, whether it's through identity awareness, LDAP integration. But yeah, you can craft firewall policies for every single individual user if you do so choose. You can get as granular as that.
Excellent. All right, well, I think that's all the time we have. Really appreciate everybody asking all your questions out there. Thank you again for joining the webinar. Really appreciate it. And, please, if you want to stay ahead of emerging security threats with a single unified network security solution, SNET's next generation firewall delivers the advanced security, visibility, and control you need to keep all your users, devices, and applications protected. So go to snetconnect.com/firewall. I am Frederick Weiss, VP of Marketing.
George Gizdaka, Director of Client Success.
And I'm Kirill Kovid, Network Engineer here at SNET.
And we really appreciate it, and thank you for joining. Thanks all. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.